I have been doing this for long enough now that I can tell within the first 2 or 3 weeks of working with someone whether they're going to win or not. And I want to be honest with you about what that signal actually is, because it's not what most people think, right? It's not how hard they work. It's not their background or how much money they started with or whether they had connections in the home services space. I've watched people with all of those things fail. And I've watched people with none of them build businesses that generate more money in a month than most people make in a year. I have now helped start over 300 home service businesses across the US and Canada. I've watched partners go from $0 to $50,000 a month, from $0 to $80,000 a month, from $0 to over $100,000 a month. And I've watched others stall out in the first 90 days and never really recover. This video is what I actually saw. Not principles I read somewhere, not theory, what I have observed directly across 300 plus builds about what separates the ones that win from the ones that just kind of stay stuck. But before I jump straight into it, if you've been binging my content and you'd like to see what it could look like to actually partner with me on building your own home service business somewhere in the US or Canada, the first link in the description of this video is going to take you to an application page for the Home Service Partner Program, the same place that over 300 people have started right before you. So if you're feeling that urge now to go and learn more about what getting started partnering with me actually looks like, just head to the link in the description of this video, and I'll remind you at the end if you don't remember. Now let's just jump straight into it. The single most common reason a home service business stalls early is not a bad market, and it's not bad ads, and it's not that the model does not work in a particular city. The most common reason is a lack of focus from the operator or a lack of runway, and usually those two things are connected. What I mean by a lack of runway is that someone comes in thinking they have more time, more money, more skill, or more connections than they actually have. They made a bet with a really tight set of constraints, and then those constraints get tested in the first month, and they do not have any wiggle room left to solve problems with. When that happens, the move most people make is the wrong one. They start trying to reinvent the wheel. They deviate from the process that exists for a reason. They convince themselves that their situation is unique, so the standard approach does not apply to them, and then they need to figure out some other way. And that deviation is where things fall apart, because the process works. I've watched it work 300 plus times. The variable is always the operator and whether they trust it enough to actually follow it. The second failure pattern I see consistently is people coming in over leveraged. They have been seduced by the bet everything on yourself narrative that gets romanticized online. And I get it. It is a compelling story. But when you are running a business and problems show up, and they always show up, you need resources to solve them. Capital, time, mental bandwidth. If you spent all of that just getting started, you have nothing left to course correct with. And you will need to course correct. Everyone does. When I look back at the partners who went on to do real numbers, the ones who crossed 20K, 30K, 50K a month, there is a pattern in how they behaved in the first month that the ones who struggled did not replicate. The clearest version of it is this. They were the most coachable people in the room. Not the most talented, not the most experienced, the most coachable. They took the most feedback. They showed up to every call, having actually done the things we talked about from the week before. They brought problems to the table instead of hiding them and trying to muscle through them on their own, because closed mouths do not get fed. The ones who win understand that early. But here's the nuance that matters. It's not just about being hungry for information. There is a specific trap that a lot of people fall into where they consume a lot. They watch every video, they read everything, they go deep on the material, but they're not actually executing between calls. And they're using the information gathering as a form of progress when it is not. Real progress is executing, hitting a wall, bringing that wall to your call, solving it, and then going at it again. That loop is what the winners run. They balance hunger for information with a bias towards action. The clearest example I have of this pattern playing out is a partner named Grant. Grant came into the program with no background in home services, no existing network, no prior experience running a business in this space. He was just someone who came in, locked in, and went to work. Every week we would get on a call and I would lay out what I needed him to do. Go get 10 reviews. Work on this piece of the operation. watch these videos and come back with questions. And when we would get on the following week's call, Grant had done double whatever I told him to do. Not, I got 8 out of the 10 reviews. Not, I tried, but I ran into this issue. Double. And on top of that, he would come back having already identified something that did not work quite right and having already tried a solution for it before we even talked. That is the behavior pattern I'm describing. Execute first, bring the problem, already working on the fix by the time we sit down together, and not waiting to be told what to do next, not waiting for permission to solve the problem. Grant is now doing over $50,000 a month. He left his full-time job. He runs the business fully remote. He's one of the best examples of what this model actually looks like when the right person runs it the right way. If I had to name the single character trait that, in my experience, most reliably predicts whether someone is going to do well in this model, it is malleability. The ability to roll with the punches. And here's why that matters more than anything else. In a home service business, you are sitting in the middle of 2 different groups of people. On one side, you have your service providers, your cleaners, your plumbers, your installers, the labor side of the business. And on the other side, you have your clients, the buyers. Now, you're managing humans on both sides of every transaction. And the more humans involved in a process, the more variables. Scheduling changes, people cancel, a service provider calls out, a client is unhappy with something that was not your fault. These things happen. They're not exceptions. They are the nature of a people-based business. Selling a product is simpler in that sense. Either someone likes the product or they don't. When you're selling a service, you're dealing with human beings at every stage, and human beings are unpredictable. The people who understand that going in and who genuinely treat every deviation as a problem to learn from rather than a reason to panic, those people do exceptionally well. The people who work incredibly hard but fall apart the moment something does not go according to plan, those people struggle. Not because they're not capable, but because they have not made peace yet with the reality that things will not always go according to plan. And that's fine. That malleability, that capacity to absorb what happens and keep moving, that is the most consistent predictor that I have seen. I want to close with this because it's probably the most common objection I hear, and I think it needs to be addressed directly. People come into the partner program genuinely worried about their lack of industry knowledge. I don't know anything about cleaning. I've never worked in home services. I don't know how to find service providers or talk to clients in this space. And I understand why that feels like a problem, but it isn't. I taught myself enough to run a $50,000 a month plumbing company in 4 weeks watching free YouTube videos. I had no background in plumbing, I did not know the trade, and I did not need to, because the entire point of the model is that your service provider handles the industry knowledge. The plumber knows how to install the system. The cleaner knows how to clean the house. That is their job. Your job is to run the business around them, to acquire clients, to manage the relationship, to build the systems. You just need to know enough to sell and enough to operate as the middleman. That's it. I will be honest. Some people come into the program with a background in the industry and they think that is going to be their superpower. And it helps a little with the sales conversation because you can speak to the technical side with more confidence, but it does not change the fundamentals of how you grow the business. Knowing more will never hurt you, but not knowing is never what kills you either. What kills you is not starting. What kills you is consuming without executing. What kills you is treating every problem like a reason to slow down instead of just a problem to solve. That is what the data from 300 plus builds actually shows. So that's the honest version of what separates the winners from the ones who stay stuck. It's not talent. It's not industry experience. It's not even capital within reason. It's coachability, a bias towards execution, and the capacity to absorb what a people-based business throws at you without losing your footing. If you're someone who watched this video and recognized yourself in the pattern I described, the partner program link is in the description of the video. We build these businesses alongside of you. We take a small equity stake so our incentives are aligned with yours, and we stay in it with you as long as you are building. Next video, I'm getting into the water filtration build. Month 1 numbers, real P&L, what actually happened, what the challenges were, and what month 2 looks like from here. If you've been following the Raleigh Water Pros build on Instagram, this is the full breakdown in more detail. I'll see you in the next one.